Oh, gonna go live in a minute here. Just want to see if we can get so many viewers in first. Oh, we got a couple in. Gonna give it a few seconds here. Waiting to see if some people mosey on in. Give it a few seconds. And that's about good enough. All right. Welcome back to WMMA Now with your host, Chuck Stevenson. And welcome to episode 146 of the WMMA Report show, where we go over everything or try to go over most or everything that's going on within the world of women's MMA. This is actually going to be a very condensed show. This is the first episode since September. So trying to get back into the flow of things. But we're going to do a condensed episode because there's some things I wanted to get go over, talk about, and get covered. So we usually go over reviews from last weekend's fights, and then we go into some news. Going to skip those this week. We're going to go straight into the rankings updates, and then we're going to preview the weekend's fights, and then we're going to talk about the topic of discussion tonight, which is going to be, is the WMMA market shrinking? I put down some notes on it, and I think it's going to be a pretty good discussion. Also, we're streaming live to Twitter as well as YouTube. So what's up to anyone viewing live on Twitter? I can't see the comments there, I don't think. Or X, as it's called. Let me see if I can bring up the stream. Maybe not. X seems to be a real pain lately. Okay, so I brought it up on a different window, so might be able to see the chat over there as well. All right, so let's get into things. So first up, I'm gonna large this up. Let's talk about UFC rankings updates. So after last weekend, we had some changes at bantamweight. Macy Chassan picked up a nice win over Pani Kianzad. She jumped up 4 spots to number 6. Pani Kianzad dropped down 3 spots to number 9. Yana Santos dropped down 3 spots as well for some reason. She's now at number 10, which allowed Carol Hosa and Misha Tate to both move up. Kellen Vieta was at number 3. Now she's tied at number 2 with Mayra Bueno Silva for some reason. Makes no sense. This is the one I really want to talk about here, and I made a community post on this. So Chelsea Chandler defeated Josiane Nunes via decision. She moved up 1 spot to number 13, which dropped Nunes down to number 14. You know, what is the point of having a hard set weight if you're just going to allow fighters to miss weight and then move them up in rankings as long as they win? Like, hey, fighters, you can get away with missing weight sometimes. As long as your opponent accepts the fight and you win, everything gets forgotten. Now, you're going to risk some pay. You're going to lose some pay doing this. But guess what? If you're having a hard cut, but it's still close enough that you think your opponent won't back out, go ahead and do it. Because as long as you win. Now, if you lose, it's going to hurt you. But as long as you win, look, you can be Chelsea Chandler and move up a spot in the rankings because she missed weight by like 3 pounds, 4 pounds, won, and moved up in rankings. Don't do it too often, and don't do it more than like 1 fight at a time, because then, people will be like, oh, she's doing this on purpose. But hey, you might as well. if you're fighting for a ranking position, it's not going to hurt you apparently, as long as you win. All that matters is that you win. I hate to say this. I hate to have this attitude, but apparently that's the reality of things in the UFC. As long as you win, you'll be forgiven. Now, obviously, don't miss weight for a title fight. Don't miss weight if you're like one fight away from a title fight. But hey, as long as you're in the rankings somewhere, it's not going to hurt you as long as you win. All right, let's move into the weekend previews. I'm not going to go hard down the stats on these. I just want to get some previews done. So this happens early tomorrow morning because it's just after 11 o'clock here on the East Coast. Ryzen Landmark 9. They renamed it from, this is an old graphic. It was Ryzen 46. They renamed it to Ryzen Landmark 9. Super atomweight, Reina versus Yuri Shim. Good fight. I was really looking forward to watching this. Unfortunately, Ryzen flubbed it. There's no live international broadcast. They're not going to rebroadcast it for the international viewers until like Tuesday or Wednesday because Ryzen's run by retards. Ryzen is run by mentally handicapped people who can't do anything right, apparently. In 2024, you can't get a live international broadcast. This is a good fight. Reina went all the way to Thailand to Tiger Muay Thai to train for this fight. Said she wanted to get back to her striking roots. Yuri Shim's already a Muay Thai background fighter. I'm going to go with Reina to win this one. Shim has just been away from the sport for too long. But don't entirely count her out. Also, if you haven't yet, go watch Physical 100 on Netflix. Shim, in the one-on-one battles that they do, like seems to be like their thing now. For the one-on-one battle with the initial quest, she challenged a dude and won. Good for her. Also tomorrow on excuse me, DAZN. If you have DAZN, or you can buy the pay-per-view on Octagon TV, we have Octagon 55 coming from Stuttgart, Germany at strawweight. I think this fight here is going to be available for free on YouTube. They always make the opening bout free on YouTube. I believe this is that bout. Strawweight bout between Jacinta Austin and Karolina Wojcik. This should be a good one. Wojcik, she's a decision machine, but she never like intentionally makes fights boring. Like she's trying she's a fun little fighter to watch. And Jacinta Austin, she's lost a couple of her fights recently, but before those losses, she was a really good strawweight prospect. And I think she still is a good strawweight prospect. So definitely keep an eye out on this one. My pick's going to be Jacinta Austin. Then up at bantamweight, we have Rosa Gumina taking on Lucia Sabova. This is a fight I'm really looking forward to because Sabova is coming off of a break. She hasn't fought MMA since, I want to say, 2020. Had a kid, took some time to recover. Last year, she got into some striking fights, like kickboxing and whatnot, but she's finally returning to MMA. This is a good Gumina's, I think it's pronounced, is a good return fighter. Record's a little bit above 500. Not terrible fighter, but Sabova should win this one. Definitely keep an eye on that because when Sabova, before she got pregnant, she was one of my top prospects on the international market, especially at bantamweight, where we always need more prospects at bantamweight. So this is a fight I'm really looking forward to. I'm going to take Sabova to win as well. Then at UFC, this fight is at bantamweight. Montserrat Rendon taking on Daria Zalesnikova. I don't really have a pick for this one. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to do some tape study on these two. Should be a good one though, and it's nice to see some fresh faces at bantamweight. Rendon already had won her UFC debut. I believe this is Zeleznaikova's debut though. So keep an eye out on these two. Don't really have a pick, but yeah, keep an eye out on it because we need some young, fresh faces at bantamweight. Then we have the main event at flyweight. Amanda Hebos taking on Rose Namajunas. Namajunas' second fight at flyweight. I think it's Hebos' like third or fourth. I'm taking Rose Namajunas to win here. If her head is in the right place, which you never know with Rose. You never know if her head's in the right place until she gets into the cage. And even then, sometimes it's in doubt. And I don't like the fact that she doesn't have Trevor Whitman in her corner, which means all of her advice is going to be coming from Pat Barry, which is not good. However, Amanda Hebos cannot help but to leave her chin in the air. She just can't help herself. And Rose Namajunas has some of the most accurate punches in all of the women's divisions, period. She's always very accurate with her punching. So definitely, I got to go with Rose to win this one. Hebos could pull it off, but I don't think whether it's at strawweight or flyweight, Namajunas is an all-around better fighter. And definitely a far more accurate striker against someone who leaves their chin up in the air. So I'm going with Rose Namajunas to win this one. Then Sunday morning, we have Deep Jewels 44. Unfortunately, one of the fights that was on here got canceled, the co-main event. So they updated. This is an updated card here. I'm not going to go over all the fights on this card. If you want, I did a full stream breaking down this one along with Charlie Jewett of sogo-kaku.com. Some of the fights to keep an eye on, though. I always like watching Kyoka. She's taking on Mahina. That's at microweight. Another microweight bout. We have Momoko Yamazaki taking on Libby. Big question will be if Libby can make microweight. I mean, she's fought as high as strawweight before. Although she was always an atom weight. But she's tall for microweight. She's 5'2", 5'3". And has a very different body than what you would normally see on microweights. But be interesting to see that one. Then at 49 kilograms, which is 108 pounds, we've got Yuko Kiryu taking on Kate Lotus. That should be an interesting one. See if Yuko still has it or if Kate Lotus is really improving that good. Then, of course, the main event. This is the big fight for me of this entire weekend is the Atomweight Championship. Shi-Yoon Park defending the Deep Jewels title against the Ryzen Super Atomweight champ Seika Izawa. The pick for this one is Izawa, but I'm asking everyone watching to join me in sending energy to Shi-Yoon Park to win this because it will definitely be better for the overall health of the Atomweight division if Park wins this, especially in Deep Jewels, because I don't trust Izawa to ever come back and defend the title, which means this is pointless. And she never showed any interest in the title until a Korean won it. So let's all send our energy to Shi-Yoon Park, like Spirit Bomb style, if you're a Dragon Ball Z fan. All right, so we're moving things right along. So let's talk about, is the women's MMA market shrinking? In various ways, I believe it is. I think that overall, the WMMA market is shrinking overall. Now, some weight classes are fairly immune to it, but some are not. obviously. Um, so first, I want to break down what's going on with various promotions that promote women's MMA and how things are going with them. And then I'm going to move on into, I'll break down some of the weight classes that are being affected by this. All right. So let's start off with, the top one in the picture there, Invicta FC. Where is North America's biggest all WMMA promotion? Okay. From May of last year up until now, they only had one event. So only one event in the latter half of 2023. And here we are. It is almost the end of March of 2024. And they have not announced anything. Like they haven't even made an announcement of, hey, our next event is on this date. Keep an eye out for more. Like they're not even giving us like an announcement for a future announcement. Where's Invicta? I'm telling you, the moment they left Fight Pass and left steady income to sell to Anthem, which owns like Access TV and stuff, they've started a slow and then suddenly a big descent. It's like they left Fight Pass, which I understand. There's some disadvantages to being on UFC Fight Pass. Mainly, you're basically beholden to the UFC for everything. Uh, you can't control your fight, your IP. You basically give up your intellectual property. Can't control your fight library. There's definitely some disadvantages, but have had a steady stream of income while they were on Fight Pass. Now they have to be either on Access TV, which listen, when your network owns you, you're not bringing in any income. Fight promotions rely on pay-per-views or network deals. Basically, they rely on broadcast deals to bring in income. Other than that, you're relying on ticket money. And regional shows don't make a lot of money on ticket money. Invicta definitely is not making a profit on ticket money. So without that steady income stream from Fight Pass, what are they relying on? YouTube? You can't rely on streaming on YouTube to make money. You really can't. Not once every 6 months or so. So Invicta is in a really bad state right now. There's no denying it. Like no one can say, "Oh yeah, Invicta's doing as good as great as ever." No. COVID didn't help them either, but they still had some events going even during COVID. So can't say that COVID hurt them that badly. Oop. Sorry, I forgot I only had that one slide. Ryzen. So we've got Ryzen this weekend, and they do have a ladies' fight. However, they only put on five ladies' bouts total last year. Now, granted, they don't put on events every month. They only go like every other month or every 3 months. They put on events. But for a while, super atomweight was one of their feature divisions. They only put on 3 super atomweight fights last year. They also had a catchweight bout and a strawweight bout. So 5 total fights, 3 of them in what was for a while one of your feature divisions. That's not a good sign. Now, on the bright side, this year they've had 2 events so far, or 1 event and then 1 tomorrow, and they've had 2 super atomweight bouts. So things are starting to look up a little bit, which is a good sign. I'm glad for that. Hopefully they keep up that pace because that is a good division. It's a fun division. Exciting to watch. Let's hope for good things for them, for Ryzen. For Combate Global, man, I really want to support this promotion. They just can't get out of their own way. And their promoter, and they're run by a dingbat. Like Campbell McLaren's a dingbat. And guess what? It's another promotion that sold to a network. The majority of Combate Global is owned by Univision, which means they're not bringing in any money for broadcast rights. Every bit of money they get is a budget that they get directly from Univision. Now, they're on yet another different streaming platform for English broadcast rights. They were on Paramount. Apparently, Paramount didn't renew, or they didn't want to. I'm guessing, well, they'll probably say, oh, Paramount didn't really serve us very well. So they left for Fuse TV. Why? Why are you on a different? It's obvious Paramount didn't want to keep paying you. Anyway, Combate. They had no events in October of 2023, no events in November of 2023. They had a few in December, like 2 or 3. However, between January and May, their next event is not scheduled till May. From January to May, they had one event. One. You're not really putting on. Can you really call yourself a fight promotion if you're taking that long of a break between events? Also, their strawweight division is de facto defunct. For all intents and purposes, their strawweight division is defunct. Okay. You go to their website and they have rankings for their divisions that they haven't updated in over a year. But so if you look, probably well over a year. If you go and look at the rankings on their website, you look at the strawweight rankings. Only one ranked strawweight fought at all for them last year, and she only fought once. That's Carolyn Gallardo. She's pregnant. I think she's still pregnant. So she's been out for a while. Any other strawweight fight that they put on? Non-ranked fighters. They have like 0 ranked fighters at strawweight right now that are active fighters. Most of the people that are ranked for them haven't fought since like 2022 at best. A lot of them since 2021. So their strawweight division is de facto defunct. Also, because Combate only puts on 4 or 5 fights per event, it makes it hard for women to get spaces on those events. Like if they were putting on like a legit fight card, like maybe 8 to 10 fights per event, women could almost guaranteed get on at least one thing. They usually tend to put women on every event, but not always. And it's rare for women's fights to take up 2 slots when there's only 4 or 5 slots per event for them, or per broadcast, I should say. They don't have events, they have broadcasts. So there's very few opportunities for the ladies, unless you're one of their favored ladies. And they definitely play favorites. Every promotion does. But Combate definitely has favored fighters. Last thing about Combate Global. They have no titles. They have no championships. I mean, they had a strawweight champion at one time. She left them, didn't fight for like 2 years, and now she's in the UFC, Melissa Martinez, Super Melly. They've never crowned an atomweight champion. They've never crowned a flyweight champion. And they show no inclination of doing so. So without a champion, there's nowhere to move up in their promotion. Let's talk about one championship. One championship's another promotion. It's like, man, you want them to do well, but they can't get out of their own way. Just like Combate. And like Combate, it's run by a dingbat. So one championship. Well, we're getting less and less MMA fights overall. It seems like almost every event we're getting less and less. And that means less and less women's fights. The strawweight champ, Seong Jingnan, she only fought one time in 2023, and it was not a title defense. She fought in a goofy mixed rules bout that served no purpose whatsoever other than to say, oh, yeah, we gave her a fight last year. That fight served 0 purpose as far as having advancing the women's divisions goes. Also, and this might be the worst part, only a select few fighters are getting regular fights. And I talked about this in the announcement for Gian Radzwan versus Ayaka Miura. Okay, if you're not a company favorite, you're just stuck not making money. You're stuck not fighting. You're stuck not making money. Listen, if you are a fighter in one championship, you better have a side job. Either you better have a side job that is your primary job, and you better be treating MMA as a hobby, or you better have really good sponsors that are taking care of you, especially if you are a woman fighter. Because unless you're one of the company favorites, you are not getting booked for fights on a regular basis. If you're not Stamp Fairtex, if you're not, well, Gian Radzwan's getting a fight less than a month after her last fight. If you're not one of the Muay Thai fighters, basically, if you're a WMMA fighter and your name is not Stamp Fairtex, you're not going to be getting fights on a regular basis. You might not even get more than one fight in a year if you're lucky to get that much. Yeah, one championship, WMMA is, your future is bleak if you are assigned to one championship. Oop, sorry, I keep doing that out of habit. All right, let's talk about UFC. Well, the UFC eliminated the so-called featherweight division, which, let's be honest, was never more than a what do you call it? Like a showcase thing, a vanity division. It was a vanity title created for Chris Cyborg, and then once Amanda Nunes did it, because Nunes destroyed Cyborg and sent her packing, Dana said, "Well, I'll keep the title alive as long as she's fighting." Now people keep saying, "Well, they never announced that they were getting rid of the division. They never announced that they were ending the title." They don't need to. They don't need to. The featherweight division in UFC, or any hopes for it, is dead, gone, extinct. Everyone needs to move on as far as that is concerned. Also for UFC, have you noticed they're finally building the bantamweight division? I have. I mean, we've got two newcomers basically fighting this weekend, and they've got other fights built. They just had one or two? Yeah, two bantamweight fights last weekend, which is good. They're finally building a bantamweight division. So for the bantamweight division, things are looking up in the UFC. However, have you noticed there haven't been as many strawweight fights getting booked, particularly within the top 15? I noticed that there haven't been as many strawweight ranking fights getting booked lately. Like, some of the fighters that aren't ranked are getting fights, but when it comes to the top 15 and really the top 10, not so much lately. That's a little worrying because for a long time, particularly after as soon as Ronda Rousey left, strawweight division really took over as the women's showcase division in the UFC. Now it seems like that torch has been passed to flyweight, if not officially, then unofficially. And I don't have a problem with that. The flyweight division is really exciting. We've got a good champ. We've got a good former champ. I could do without the trilogy fight because we've got some up and comers moving up fast in that division. It's a little bit artificial, but that division is on fire right now. But strawweight's kind of left languishing. Let's talk about Bellator. Well, Bellator sold to PFL. Their divisions are done. They have a few events. They have several events this year that they have to do in order to fulfill broadcast contracts. But Bellator is de facto defunct as well. These Bellator events are just PFL wearing a Bellator skin suit. Their featherweight division's done, and their flyweights either got let go or absorbed into PFL. Which then brings us to PFL. PFL only puts on one divisional tournament per year for the ladies. This year it's flyweights. Last year it was featherweights. This year there's no featherweight tournament. There's no featherweights being booked right now. It's flyweights. It's all about the flyweights. So, yeah, the featherweight division, we'll talk about that, is in dire straits, period. Um, yeah, that's serious market shrinkage when you consider that Bellator got absorbed and a lot of their fighters let go, and then PFL absorbed the rest, and they only do so many events per year with them. That's not a good sign for the market. Final thing I want to talk about promotion wise, the Fight Pass to Dana White Contender Series pipeline. See, the best chance to make money if you're a women's fighter, honestly, is going to be with the UFC. Unless you can get a big payout in like regional promotions that will pay you likely more than what the UFC is going to pay you, at least on your first few contracts. If you can't make that happen, then your best chances in the UFC. But more and more, the UFC is shrinking where they are scouting from. They have so many promotions on Fight Pass now, and they're scouting almost exclusively from those promotions. And then you got to go through the Contender Series. So you have the ways to get into the UFC are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And then to actually get into the UFC, you then got to prove yourself even more by going on a show run by an egomaniac. The market's getting smaller. I'm telling you, the market for WMMA and the chances, the opportunities are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Hey, brother, man. So, yes, the Fight Pass pipeline straight to Contender Series to UFC. If you win, it's making things harder for the ladies on the regional scene to advance. So let's talk about a few of the weight divisions, because let's be honest, there's 5 really official divisions, and I want to talk about 3 of them. First, let's talk about atomweight. Atomweight's overall my favorite division. Me personally, it's my favorite. But here's the thing: with Invicta in its current slump, atomweights aren't really getting too many opportunities in North America. That basically leaves you with Combate Global for regular atomweight opportunities. And we already talked about what's going on in Combate. Not many events being put on, at least for the first half of the year. And you're only going to put on 1 or 2 fights per event, women's fights per event, and they're not always going to be atomweight. So, yeah, atomweight in North America is down bad right now, which basically leaves you with Japan. And I mean, Ryzen will occasionally bring in, foreign fighters. Yeah, Ryzen will occasionally bring in some foreign fighters, but not to the extent that like you need in order to stay active. And then you got Shudo, Pancrase, and Deep Jules. They all have atomweight divisions, but they're not exactly bringing in foreign fighters. At least no farther. At least fighters that are any farther out from Japan than Korea. I mean, if you're a Korean atomweight, yeah, you can go fight in Japan. But the other promotions, they're smaller. They're like regional, so they're not bringing in international talent. It's too expensive. They got to pay for your visa. They got to pay for your travel. It's not easy. So yeah, if you're an atomweight, I feel bad for you. I really do. And that just makes it even harder than for the hopes of that the UFC will one day add the atomweight division, because there's a lot of people out there hoping for that and praying for it. So yeah, if you're an atomweight, have your manager reach out to Ryzen or have your manager reach out to somewhere in Japan. And if you don't want to go as far as Japan, Combate. In the European scene, there's nothing that I know of. I don't think I've ever seen an atomweight fight in a European promotion. South America, yeah, there's some atomweight fights in Brazil, but not many, not too many. So yeah, your hopes are no longer in North America, except for Combate, and then they only want fighters that appeal to their certain markets. Let's talk about strawweight. So I talked about the UFC earlier. I would say strawweight as a division overall is still going strong. But like I said, outside, the ranked fighters aren't getting booked as much. Now, whether it's they don't want to fight certain fighters, they don't want to fight someone below them, who knows? I just feel like the UFC is turning its attention away from strawweight and more towards flyweight. And also rebuilding bantamweight, which is good. But for a long time, man, strawweight was just the division to be in. And now it just seems like it's kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit. And then finally, featherweight. Flyweight's great. Bantamweight is doing better than it has been for years. It's getting booked in the UFC more. I'm seeing more and more bantamweights booked on the regional scene, which means that there's going to be better hope for them in the UFC in the long run. But featherweight, man, featherweight's never been a division that I've been super big on. It just hasn't. But I feel, if you're a featherweight fighter, I feel bad. Like I genuinely feel bad right now because your division is effectively dead. Invicta is practically dead. It's on life support. Bellator got bought out by PFL. PFL's not doing a featherweight division this year. So there's no hope for you on the big shows right now as far as featherweight is concerned. Bellator was supposed to do a featherweight fight between Leah McCourt and Sinead Kavanaugh earlier today, but that fight fell through because McCourt got injured. But division can't survive on one-off fights. So that's real unfortunate. So yeah, women's featherweight is effectively a dead division. For all intents and purposes. I mean, yeah, our featherweight's going to get booked in regional shows. Yeah. But they're going to be few and far between. So let me know your thoughts. I think I presented a pretty good case in that in some ways, and particularly for some divisions, the women's MMA market is just shrinking. And it's being homogenized a lot, particularly as far as the UFC is concerned. I mean, their market pool is just stronger than ever. And if you're not one of their divisions, you're out. You're stuck. Let's see. Oh. So I wanted to talk about for a minute. Yeah, let's talk about PFL. Because they are doing the flyweight tournament this year. So we'll see if I can bring this up a little bit bigger for you. Okay. I just want to go over the fights that they're doing. And I'm not a fan of, I think, any of these matchups. So the PFL, the first round of the flyweight season, regular season, starts April 4th in San Antonio, Texas. And I'll admit, I'm not excited for this tournament this year. A lot of it's Bellator fighters being reabsorbed in the PFL, and like one or two fighters from the PFL that they're going to try to push. And I don't give them too big of a chance. Although I'll give one of them a pretty good chance because that's who they favor. The big one, the only fight on the main card, is a trilogy fight between Liz Carmouche and Juliana Velasquez. Nobody asked for this trilogy fight other than maybe Juliana Velasquez. Who asked for this? I know I didn't. I don't know anybody that said, oh man, I hope Juliana Velasquez gets another chance against Liz Carmouche. PFL booked this fight for one reason and one reason only. They have a fighter who we'll talk about in a moment that they are trying to push all the way to the finals. They're going to give that person the easiest path to the finals. Now, Carmouche and Velasquez should rightfully be the two favorites in the PFL season. So, how do you get rid of them? Well, you book them against each other early because one of them has to lose. So, by doing that, you basically, once you lose, there's only like what, 2 regular season events and then the playoffs. So once a fighter takes an L in the first round, they're basically eliminated from the playoffs. I mean, things could always go crazy, but we've seen it happen often enough that if you lose in the first round of the regular season or lose period, you have almost no chance at getting into the playoffs. So, yeah, they're trying to eliminate one of these two. That's the only purpose for a trilogy fight that nobody asked for. Oop, wrong one. Wrong click. All right. So, yes, as Easy E says, Dakota Dacheva versus Lisa Malden. Dakota Dacheva is PFL's it girl. She won the Euro Series flyweight tournament last year. She is their it girl. So they're going to give her the easiest path to the playoffs possible. No offense to Lisa Malden, but Lisa Malden is not being booked to realistically win this fight. So expect Dacheva to win and move on. This one's actually pretty good, though. Tyler Santos versus Denise Kielholtz. I was surprised that Santos got signed by PFL. She is a major threat to any of their plans. If she defeats Denise Kielholtz, she's going to go up against someone like, she's probably going to be Liz Carmouche's next opponent, so that one of them can eliminate the other from the playoffs. So if Santos wins against Kielholtz, expect her to face the winner of Carmouche versus Velasquez. Then we have Conor Watanabe taking on former UFC fighter Shanna Young. Should be a fairly easy win for Watanabe. And then expect Shanna Young to be Dakota Dacheva's opponent in the second round of the regular season. Then we have Chelsea Hackett taking on Jenna Bishop. Hackett at first was one of the fighters like I thought, oh, they're really going to favor her because, you know, she's pretty and she's a she's a striker. Promotions love pretty strikers. But they're putting her up against an absolute BJJ beast in Jenna Bishop. And we've seen Chelsea Hackett get submitted. So this is going to be an interesting bout here between Hackett and Bishop. Then a final one. I kind of like this one. Caitlin Neal. She's a veteran taking on Sumiko Inaba. Inaba's coming off of her first pro loss against Denise Kielholtz. This should be a good one. Neal should be a good test for Inaba. We'll see what happens there. So yeah, that's it for PFL. So let's go into. Hold on a sec. All right, let's go to chats. Kind of ignored the chat for the show. Oop, there we go. Colostrum asked Aaron versus Manone, who you got? Haven't even looked at it really. Easy. For the type and level of promotion Invicta is, they should have never left Fight Pass. I agree. I did not like when they were leaving Fight Pass. I like Invicta, but honestly, they don't have the resources for any major growth. No, you're not. Invicta is a niche promotion. And at least when they were under Fight Pass, they still had like access to more money so that they could bring in more international fighters. They haven't brought any Asian fighters in a long time. They bring in very few fighters other than like from Brazil, which probably means that the visa is cheaper. Yeah, I was not a fan of Invicta leaving Fight Pass. Like, I think a part of it was that they wanted to get away from UFC just basically going, "Oh, new champion. I like that. Thank you. I'll take that, please. And I'll take her as well." I think they thought that they were going to be able to get away with just losing all their champions to the UFC all the time. It still didn't happen. Brother Man says, ask me, how's life been treating me? It's treating me, I guess. I mean, it's life. I'm living. I'm alive. And working all the time, which is great because I get money. But I'm getting fat and sassy. Another thing is the fighters. They know what the major promotions are, so they have no incentive to be loyal to these smaller companies. Yeah, there's no incentive to be loyal to smaller promotions if you have a chance at a bigger promotion. I mean, you got to make money. This is prize fighting. At the end of the day, if you're not making money, what are you doing? I mean, are you doing it for the love of the sport? That's cool, but what hope do you have for the future if you're not making money? What's going on in Invicta FC? Well, like I mentioned earlier, they had one show in the latter half of 2023, and they have no announcements for this year whatsoever. All they're doing is re-uploading old fights to YouTube and talking about past fights on and highlights on what do you call it? Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Threads, I guess. I don't know. TikTok, probably. I don't have Threads or TikTok. All they're doing is living in the past and making no announcements for the future. Yeah, nothing. Nothing's going on with Invicta. Yeah, they're implying they're doing less events is implying that they're putting on events at all. And right now, they're not. PFL is going to have to get rid of the tournament. Yeah, there is almost no incentive to come back to the tournament after doing it once. All they're doing right now, they're burning out fighters worse than Bellator used to, because Bellator used to burn out fighters with their tournament model. PFL's tournament model goes even faster than Bellator's, than the old Bellator tournament model, like when they first started. And that's all they did. All the tournament models do year after year is burn out fighters. It's just a meat grinder, just grinding them up and throwing them out. I'm not a fan of the tournament model anymore. Like, doing an occasional tournament is fine, but surviving off of a tournament model, can't do it. PFL's new it girl, Dakota Cheva. Yeah, she's popular, or at least they're trying to make her popular. And yeah, it's worrisome, man. I'm worried about the WMA market, particularly featherweight, which I'll admit I was never a fan of it before anyway. Atom weight is looking bad without Invicta backing them up. Very little opportunities for atom weights outside of Japan. It's sad. Yeah. So that's really all I have for you all tonight. Good show. Good. Trying to get back into the flow of things. Going to try to make this a weekly thing again. We're simulcasting now to both YouTube and Twitter/X. So thank you to all the YouTube viewers and to all of the X viewers. Let me see. Is there anything? I don't see any comments in the chat on X. So nothing being missed over there. I mean, here's the thing. The brother man says, I knew deep down WMMA wasn't going to have a future. It could. It's just up to the promoters and doing it right and actually giving a damn. A lot of promoters don't give a damn. A lot of them just don't give a damn. One championship, their model is unsustainable. Burning through money, investor money. Invicta, leaving the only place that was giving them money on a regular basis. The only place that was guaranteed income. Then you sold out to a TV network. Well, what broadcast money are you bringing in? What is your broadcast deal that is bringing in money? You don't have one. Combate sold out to Univision. I guess they're doing okay on Univision. I don't know. I mean, no one really talks about them on social media. So yeah, I think the if you want to doom your promotion, sell it to a network. You'll make money as a promoter, but your baby, or what should be your baby, is never going to make is doomed. It's doomed to a slow death. Because Combate hasn't grown. Not really. I mean, okay, people are watching it on Univision. Cool. Or are they really watching it though? Or are they just falling asleep after the soccer game ends and leaving the TV on? Because if social media metrics are anything to go by, no one's really talking about them. Nobody's really watching. They're just leaving the TV on after the soccer game, which most homes that watch Univision, which are Spanish speaking, guess what? Univision gets left on 24/7. And you can also look up the ratings of the soccer game that precedes Combate and then look at the ratings of Combate, and most people are changing the channel anyway. So yeah. Unfortunately, it's man, the more I think on this, the sadder I'm getting. But that's why I had to go live and talk about this. I've been thinking about this for several weeks now, and I finally wrote down the notes on it last night, and I started getting sadder the more I wrote, and now the more I think about it, the more I talk about it, I'm getting sadder. It really sucks. As a fan of the women's divisions, it fucking sucks. Now I'm depressed. All right. Hit that like button, whether you're on X or YouTube. Please hit that like button. Share. We got to get this discussion going. Tomorrow, I'm going to try to edit that segment out, the discussion segment out, and probably upload it as a separate video. Got to get this discussion going. The market's shrinking. It really is, especially for some of the divisions. And we got to get the work. We got to get at least a discussion going about this, Yeah, I agree. Easy Combate is not even a promotion. They're just literal content filler for Univision at this point. It's like how can you get excited about fights if you don't know who's fighting who and when until it's like Wednesday of fight week? They actually announced a fight. Their next main event is going to be in May, and it's La Loba Acosta versus Alejandra Lara. So hey, they actually announced the fight several months in advance. That's a step in the right direction, but it's not much. So yeah, we got to get this discussion going. Hit that like button, share the stream. Social medias are down below in the description. Freaking depressed now. So you all have a good night. See you next time.